I think it's going to be a lot of fun today because today I'm doing a little exercise about painting with complementaries, but I'm going to do some painting with my sketch pad, so it should be a bit sort of contained, not too messy. I'm quite hopeful because I've had a really messy week. I've been oil painting, and I've actually taken to wearing gloves for my first oil painting of 2024 because things got so messy. I don't know why, but I have had a lot of fun with exploring color. And I did say, didn't I, that I wanted to work on my color and my tones. Sorry, I have to clean my glasses so I can see what I'm going to paint. So this is the plan of what I'm going to paint because it occurred to me that when I finish my first oil painting of the year, and I'll have a video for you about that very soon, um, that I want to move right on to starting another one because I'm going to do lots of oil paintings this year and lots of paintings in my sketch pads as well. In different media, I like working with gouaches, and that's what I'll be working with today. Um, but it gives me a chance to work more on my color and on my tones without kind of spending weeks working on one painting. I just want to lash through some painting and really concentrate and working on the color and not get too bogged down and working on sort of drawing skills really on painting. So that's it, color and tone. So today is about color, but color and tone kind of go together. And the painting I had been working on, I was using a what you call a color harmony scheme, right? So I can use this little color wheel to explain it to you. Now, the color wheel, there's a lot to this, and then there is and there isn't. It's simple, but it's not simple. I started getting into this last year, and I've got a lot of live streams up about color because I was really into this last year. But it's not something you kind of stop working on. It's something you go back and have another think about from time to time. And when I had started that first oil painting in 2024, I I came across a video about this double complementary color scheme. Okay, which I have marked out on this color wheel. Now, this is kind of what you call a standard color wheel, and you could call it the lie telling wheel as well, because there are things about it that aren't exactly correct. For example, the shade of red and the shade blue that you will see on the kind of color wheels you get in art shops tend not to be exactly the shade that will produce exactly the results that they show on the rest of the color wheel. For example, this kind of a warm, kind of almost a cadmium red, and this type of blue, which is kind of an ultramarine blue, they will produce in the purple ranges. When you mix them together, they'll produce purples that aren't particularly vibrant or anything. And actually, printers have it sussed out because this CMYK model, right, is a model that printers use and print shops use, right? And C stands for cyan, which is type blue, M stands for magenta, which is type of red, and Y stands for yellow, and K stands for black. But we don't worry about black too much because when you're working with the color wheel like this, you're not really working with black or white. You are, but it's not represented on the wheel. And if you added black to a color, for example, red, you'll see that the outer rings of this color wheel has what the thing looks like with some black added. My middle bit there is what that red looks like with some white added. So you can tone up the colors with white and tone down the colors with black. So if you think of white and black as things you're using to tone the colors and you're not considering them colors in their own right, you kind of get the idea of how this wheel works. But as I say, the type of blue and the type of red they use on these color wheels, they're a bit misleading. And when you're a beginner mixing color, some of the colors you end up with, you kind of go, well, why am I getting that mucky kind of violet? Now, I'm very glad to announce that last week, during the week, when I was working on that painting, and indeed I started it on last Friday's live, I was working on getting rid of my fair purple because I had painted this scene here, plein air, and it's actually April now, which I didn't know. Apparently, there's this thing called plein April for the month of April, which I'm considering doing. If anybody wants to do it, let me know, and then we can cheer each other on. I heard about it through Sarah Burns, who's an artist, an American artist working in, well, maybe she's Canadian, I don't know. She's got an accent that to me sounds American, but I'm not very sophisticated about knowing these different accents. But she's living in Scotland anyway, and she paints a lot of plein air stuff. She goes out, most days, weather allowing, to paint. So I watch a lot of stuff on her channel because I like going out and about painting things. So she was talking about it. So that'd be interesting, won't it? So I'm going to keep track and see who's doing it and who isn't doing it and what's happening and see if anybody's interested. But I was out and I did this, and this was one of the pieces that helped me get over my rather irrational fear of purple. Because I was sort of announcing that, I hate purple. And I'm going to show you the purple that kind of upsets me, and I'm actually okay with it now. This kind of purple. A lot of people use very violent purples when they're doing mountains and things, and I have a piece with mountains in it today. And what the plan is that we use a complementary color scheme with making use of this wheel here, and get the sketchbook out and do a few paintings in sketchbook using a few different, say at least two, right? Because I always overestimate what I'm going to be able to do in a live stream and aim a bit too high. But at least two, right? Little paintings in my sketchbook with using different complementary color schemes. And if you're lost, don't worry, because I get lost as well and I'm just struggling finding my way. But here was the what I ended up with for the one I was doing during the week. And it will become clearer in the video when it goes up, I think. But basically, I'll show you how this kind of a color scheme works, and then we're going to modify it and do a different kind of a complementary color scheme. So you're actually going to learn about two different color complementary schemes if you didn't know them already, right? Because you might be way ahead of me here. So this one is a double complementary color scheme, and how it works using the wheel, that standard color wheel, is that you have a scene, say, that you painted or that you want to paint, or you've got a reference photo for or whatever, and you pick a light color from it that's kind of a main color. So with this one, I actually have a photo of it in the thumbnail, which might be a little bit more. I have a watercolor of this somewhere. I can't put. Oh, I know. I have it up on the wall beside me. Oh, I suppose I could rip it down and show it to you. Hang on. There we are. So I'm not super happy with this, but we did that last week live, and it's okay. But I do want to do another painting from this, and I want to use a complementary color scheme on it, and it has loads of purples in it, right? But I could choose. I could say purples or blues are the main color, or I could say that this pale fieldy color here is the main color. So um I choose, if I was doing a double complementary, what I would do would be say, okay, my main color is yellow, but say my main color that I choose is yellow, I get to choose two colors and then choose two complements of them. And that's why this has an X across it, because there's the two colors, right? And this is actually what I chose for the other painting I was doing, which had a very pale yellow grass in it. So this is a yellow orange that I chose, and the other colors chosen because in this double complementary, the colors you choose, they have to make this rectangle shape. So you're not going to, if you choose two main colors, you're not going to choose two colors that are exactly beside each other. They're going to be spaced out a little bit. So you've got a color you're not using in between. So I ended up with a yellow orange and a red orange for this. And I did a bit of messing before I decided to actually do this. And then I got it kind of wrong. Didn't know about it had to fit into a rectangle, and I had to do other bits of messing. But, this is what happens when you're learning. You make little mistakes and you rectify your mistakes as you learn something new about it. So they were the two colors I was going to use, yellow orange and red orange. But I also get to use the complementaries of each color for that double complementary scheme. And the complementary just means the color that's directly opposite that one on the color wheel. So I made this little plastic see-through thing from an old bit of packaging I had around the place that had some pens came in. And ran a line across, because that means if I wanted to do more double complementary schemes, I can use this little device for getting me around. Um, so opposite yellow orange, there was a violet blue. And I have this color wheel. Oh, it's way back now on the community tab. Last year, I posted loads of stuff about it. But I go through it in more detail on some of the old live streams if you want to have a gander through the live streams. But I might post a link underneath this video to um, the an article that I was reading about double complementaries that I found very, very useful. So this violet uh, blue is, it's a violet that has more blue in it because it's over towards the blue side of the color wheel, basically. It's exactly the opposite or the complementary of yellow orange. So that's all you need to know about what a complementary is. It's the opposite on the color wheel, basically. So you can use that as well. So we've got now we have three colors, and the fourth color is the opposite of red orange, which is a blue green. So it's a green, but here's your green over here, you see, and no, there's your green there, and it's one over towards the blue direction. So it's got a bit more blue in it. So that's what that one is about. They're my four colors shown there. They're just different shades of them, but those four there was what I ended up with for that painting I was doing. And you'll see how that painting turned out. I thought the color got better straight away, but it wasn't a super easy thing to do, because you keep wanting to reach for other colors that you have um, to solve particular problems, and you have to say to yourself, no, hang on now, I'm only constrained to these colors. But the idea of being constrained to those colors is so that your painting as a whole is very harmonious because it's made up of all the same colors. Um, it's a great theory in effect, right? Any colors that you mix up from these are going to be harmonious, right? So, you know, um, this just constrains you a little bit more to tell you, look, don't wander too much off the beaten track of these. You can go a little bit astray and have a color that's a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler, but don't run amok. Have these your main colors and keep coming back to these four as your main colors. And because you're using contrasting colors, um, you're looking really for where are these colors and their complements turning up sort of together to make the thing kind of scintillate a little bit or pop. You can get other color schemes that use analogous colors, which are colors beside each other on the color wheel, and there's um no reason you can't do a painting like that. You can do a painting any way you like. This is just a device to kind of hold you down to something color wise. And I like that at the moment because I'm working on color. So the more things you do to get yourself out of your comfort zone, the more you're going to learn, is my thinking on it at the moment. So I was taking all sorts of little notes during the week. And um, one of the things I found out from that very good blog article, which I'll put in onto the video when I'm finished streaming, is a list of all the possible color combinations you can get out of that double uh, complementary harmonic color scheme. And there's six apparently. So thank goodness for all those really good bloggers out there because they're way ahead of me on this, you see. But it is very interesting. And you can see I have notes and everything on what I wanted to concentrate on because I'm looking to up my skills. I don't want to get stuck in this little color rush, and that can happen if you don't actively work on a little thing that you've identified. Okay, I have a little bit of an issue with that, and I feel a bit stuck on this. I was feeling a bit stuck that, my colors were a little bit muddy, or they were all samey, all a little bit too mid-tony and too. I'm a very tonal painter, There's no color in this that's really kind of really, really bright. They're all around the same tone range, you see. So I knew I had to work on that. And, it's not easy for me. But so having spoken to you about double complementary colors, I hope you won't be annoyed if I tell you that what I was going to do today isn't double complementary at all. I was going to try something different because that painting that I'm doing is ongoing. I'm hoping it's only going to be another couple of days because, as I say, I wanted to move on fairly fast through paintings this year just to get me lots of color practice and everything. But it's related to this, and I can actually use this little plastic thing to help me do a different kind of complementary color scheme. And this one is called a split complementary. So we'll take a note on that. So how you do a split, we know how to do a double complementary, and I mean you don't really know it until you give it a go, but you've heard of it now, and I'm going to put the blog post underneath. You can read about it, and if you want to give it a go, do. I had great fun doing it so far. It's terrific fun. I don't know how well the painting will turn out at the end, but in a way, I don't mind if the painting itself isn't like super successful, as long as the color is improving um, through what I'm learning. This, I have an extra sticker to go on it because here's what I'm doing this time. I'm gonna take this off, and I'm gonna have a think about a split complementary. And a split complementary is when you take one main color and then two of its complements, but split complements. So I'm going to show you what I mean. And the first picture I'll do, I've decided I'm going to do it in a yellow. That's just plain. I know it doesn't look yellow because this is so scruffy now, the way I've used it so much. I have a few of them around the place. I need to get a cleaner one or do a few new ones for myself. Um, but that's my yellow, and that's what yellow looks like with black in it, and yellow with white in it. So that's the actual level yellow there, and yellow is considered a primary because you can't mix yellow up from the other colors. So the three primary colors are in the middle. Then we have yellow and red mixed together for orange, and we have blue and yellow mixed together for green. But actually, the yellow and black make it kind of a deep, lovely sap green as well. But I'm going to use yellow for my main color, right? Because in this, and you probably see it better in the photos that I put up, or even in this one, maybe. All the fields and everything are very yellow color. So I've decided that's kind of the main color I want to use for this, for my first little study, if you like, in Sketchpad. So I'm going to put the sticker in there. So I'm using that. We're forgetting about these two guys here. That was for the other type of color scheme we were doing, the double complementary. With the split complementary, you come down directly opposite the yellow, and directly opposite yellow, the complementary or the opposite of it is violet. And I've explained to you why my violet is very mucky looking violet. It's because I'm not using cyan and magenta. I'm using the type of blue and the type of red that they always show in these color reels. So your violet turns out looking mucky when you do that. So violet is the opposite or complementary of yellow, but this is a split complementary. So I am going to choose for my color scheme colors on either side of that. So I'm choosing a violet red, which just means violet with a bit extra red added, and a violet blue. Okay, so that's how I'm going to arrive at that. So let's do out our color scheme for um, the first sketch. And yeah, I might do them on the same page because I think what I could end up with then is color mixes over this side, so you can see the colors, and then the two uh, finished pieces on this side. And I think this is a really nice exercise to do because um, you just put on some nice music and you don't have to get everything, the drawing and everything perfect. Um, and, it's a little experiment that you kind of know some of what's going to happen, but then you get a nice surprise at the end because I don't know what these three colors are going to look like when I'm finished. So I'll write down here split complementary. Which has three colors to remind me. And then I have to choose my colors. Now I am using my Hemi gouache. And actually I have, oh, how did I do that already? I've already got color all over the page. Now I could actually use a very violent pre-mixed violet for this if I wanted to. But what I might do is I might make a sort of a magenta color to show you. Um, I always kind of struggle with this because there's a lot of the colors in this are pre-mixed anyway. So, but there isn't really a magenta. So I kind of have to make it up from what's here. But I have very interesting palettes today, which I'm looking forward to. See the way that's not quite a magenta, but those two together make what I would judge to be magenta. So this is not coming out of a tin labeled magenta or anything, but this is what I'm sort of calling magenta. And we're not worried about what kind of transparency or opacity each color has. Okay, so that's my magenta. And I would want to make sure that I always have a little tiny bit of that starting color hanging around so that, I have to mix it again. I know how to do it. And that's much different from, look at this red, which is a very warm cadmium red. See how this is so much cooler. It's over more towards the violet end of things, isn't it? So you can see how you get a more vibrant violet out of that. So that's one of my primary colors. Then yellow and blue we need as well. So I do actually have a cyan in this. So you see these plates, you know why I'm using these? because I, oh, I'm nearly out of cyan. Ooh. And I don't think I have any more. I ordered these online, but they're not the same brand. But it's good because this set is a cheap set, but it comes with the plastic thing that's robust enough that you can actually reuse it. So I have been buying the brand I've been buying is Pabeo, which is pretty cheap but okay quality, and just refilling them out of that. And it's okay, like you still have to add a little bit of water every now and again, but so you see how that is it's kind of a more greeny blue than the ultramarine that's usually shown on that color chart. So just to be aware of that when you're mixing colors, if they don't turn out the way that they're kind of supposed to on the color wheel. When I was making this color wheel, my color wheel turned out different from the color wheels that they show online, different colors. And but I knew why at that stage because I'd been reading up about how cyan and magenta and yellow were actually the real primaries. So I knew why that was. And if you want to make one of those color wheels, go back and look for the live stream I did. We were making that color wheel together because I show you how, we drew out the circle and all that. Okay, so I want to get the first primary color down, or my first complementary color scheme color down. So the main color I was using was pale yellow. We decided on for this scheme, and it depends on what picture you're doing, what your color is going to be. So that's a kind of a what you would call primary yellow is kind of the nearest yellow for that. So you know if you're using a lemon yellow, you'll get slightly different results. So I have another. Isn't this great? Somebody went to throw these out yesterday and they didn't put them in the proper bins. They just left them they left them in a cardboard box. And I saw them when I was putting my rubbish out. And oh, that has a little bit of green in it. Does that matter? Not for the purposes of this picture terribly. So I'll put up with that. See, can I get a bit that has no green mushed up in it? I do actually have more of this one hanging about the place somewhere because I bought a refill of this. But I'm very so near the refill time for this that I was thinking, will I just buy another set of Himi Jelly Gouache or will I buy refills? But they have so many in that Pabeo range that I'm saying, no, um I think I'll just carry on with this set and just buy the colors that I use most because there's a lot of colors in this that to me are extra colors that, I could make them up easily from other things. So I don't need them all, you see. So I have three colors there that I could that's a little bit lemony actually. But it's not too bad. I can do kind of a thing like this to make it a little bit more yellowy if I want. There. Really, I should get out, a process yellow to see what it looks like. It's no good looking for it online because um depends on whether your screen's set to RGB or CMYK. It's all terribly technical stuff which digital artists will understand. These have gone slightly dry actually. Okay. And another thing I love about these paints, I don't mind using lots of them because they're cheap and cheerful. Okay, so I got my three colors, right? That I'm going to do a lot of mixing from. And I got my beautiful plates. I got loads more plates than that, but I just kept the ones that were faded, the most faded, to do my mixing in because they're bone china and they're lovely to mix on. So one person's rubbish is another person's treasure. And these kinds of plates are harder to get all the time. And I had no side plates at all, so what a great find that was. Okay, now, so yellow is going to be my first color. So I'm just going to put down a yellow, yellow, right? So they'll have a base color. Now, I can come along and do things with that, like I'm looking for another. I am looking for another one of those because that stops the paint's getting too infected with color. And I'll put my white on a different plate again. How's that? I have a lot of plates, so I can do things like mix a little bit of white in with it and get different colors. You see, so my palest color in the field will be like those kinds of yellows, but I get two other colors as well, don't I? So let's look at the two other colors on that scheme. And this is where having the color wheel to refer to is handy. You get a bit lost if you don't have it. So I have violet red and violet blue, and that suits me great in that painting because I've got violety hills and I've got reddishy trees in it. So this is seeming kind of doable, you know. Now let's just clean the color off that brush to get our next color. So we'll get the violet first, okay? So let's see, can we make a violet with these two and see what this violet looks like. So there's the cyan, and there's what I had decided was magenta. Now have a look at that violet compared to this violet. That violet is very grey, isn't it? So you see the difference that using a different type of blue makes. And if that looks very dark on the screen, let me show you what happens when I add a bit of white. Okay. Now we'll do things in a minute with black, but just want to show you this first. So I'm going to clean that off. So that's definitely a color that I can use in the mountains. And I'm not going to do a very finished looking thing like this thing I did last week. I'm just going to be generalizing about, like, if mountains are violet. I'm not going to do all the detail here. I'm just going to do some of the violets, and can shade it into blue if I want, because it's kind of about color mixing today. So some of the subtleties might come into it. So the final color then is violet red. So I have the violet again, but I'm going to add some red. Now, um, magenta is the red I'm using this time. Okay, so it's definitely going more towards the red there. But as you can see, it's not the same kind of red as on the color wheel, because that red was a warmer red to start with that they're showing on the color wheel. And that's why you see people saying, oh, maybe they shouldn't really teach that color wheel at all. So if I wanted a warmer red than that, obviously there'd be more yellow in it to get it warmer. So let's put some white in there. Where's my white plate? So a pale pink going on. Okay. So already that's the three, but it's one, two, and three, because that's the violet again. I had to mix that up using the violet as the first step. So there are the three colors. Okay, for the first thing. So I hope that makes some sense. So let's have a look at it. And it would make sense to do the mountains first, wouldn't it? Oh, there's one thing I want to show you before we do that, though. And that is black. What happens with black? You see, there is a way of mixing that you can just mix stuff with black. So where's my violet? There's my violet there. And you do tend to have to go back to your original color all the time and make sure you can match it. That's why it's nice to have it down on the piece of paper before you do any of this. But I just want to show you what happens with the black, just to prove to you that you can just up or down. We're now talking about tone, okay? We added white this side. So adding black brings you down. And look at that one. You get fairly decent kind of deep brown with that violet. So that's a handy color. And with your violet red, I should write the colors out actually. Yellow, um, violet, blue, yellow, violet, blue. Yeah. So it can be hard enough to keep track of violet, blue, and violet, red. And that's going to be this one. Okay. So, make it diagrammatic and get a bit clearer. I'm always doing this. I'm going to taking ages and ages to actually paint. Now, it's going to be really interesting when we get to greens because I have no idea what I'm going to do when we get to greens. None. So I'm going to say that that little gate is somewhere there, but I am really, really generalizing to a huge degree about what's actually happening in here. Okay, because I just want to see how the blocks of color look in this. Um, I didn't show you the black in the yellow, but I will now. So that solves the mystery there about how we do the trees. Look, magic. We've got ourselves a nice green where we didn't have a green at all in the original thing, but that was handy, wasn't it? So this is gouache, so I'm treating it like a watercolor because that turns out to be quite a handy way to approach using these gouache. I saw other YouTubers using it, and I thought, thank you so much for showing me how to do that because I don't know how to do that. Okay, so I'm doing quite a lot of filling in with that really dark color, but I have other colors to come, and the next color is going to be the violet. This is very different from what I usually do and my approach. Okay, my approach is I don't usually have trouble mixing colors, so my approach is to try and color match the scene exactly. In this scheme of things, you may not be matching the color scheme exactly. Okay, for example, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I get to um, bits like this tree. If I was going to go for that kind of color, some of the oranginess might be hard to match. So I might have to bring it down to that violet red and then have yellow highlights. But remember, some of the sort of rules to this is You can play around to either side of these colors a little bit as long as these are the main things. So I'm going to keep it really simple and mix up another bit of violet. Try and avoid the rose there while I'm doing this. Is that violet too red, I wonder? No, it's okay. Okay, so there's my starting point is the violet. Then um, if I want to match the lightness or darkness, in other words, the tone of the mountains, I can lighten or darken the paint. And I'll show you, I've showed you how to do that with black, but um, I feel that I should mention that you can also do a similar thing with mixing the complementary of your color. Now we have a really interesting thing going on in the sky. This is all one tone now, which is very dark at the moment. But gouache isn't like it's going on like watercolor at the moment, but it isn't actually like watercolor. You can put it on thick afterwards to go lighter. We have a really interesting dilemma with the sky because I had a very vibrant blue sky before, but we don't have any blue allowed in this complementary. We only have a violet blue. So that sky is going to be, there's no way I can get that really acidic blue even with the yellow. I mean, I can try and do things like mix in yellow and see what happens if I mix in yellow with violet, but look at what does happen. I get another kind of a weird green. And, you could have other pieces of paper going where you do little tests, but that produces a very nice little brown, but because the yellow is in with the violet, um, yellow is the complementary of violet. So sometimes when you're mixing those complementary colors together, you get a nice toned down version of that. So in some parts of the mountain, you might get, if you want to go darker with shadow on the mountain, you might get a chance to use the complementary in with that color. Now it's a bit hard to see because I have the violet very dark at the moment. But there are other areas in the mountain that are brighter. But my point about mixing the yellow ends, no way, that's not going to do sky for us, is it? So we're stuck with saying, okay, well, is the sky going to be more like violet blue or violet red? Yellow is no good in that mix for getting that sky. So it's going to be violet blue, isn't it? So I'm going to add more blue. I hope um I hope this would make it would definitely, I think, make sense to anybody who's kind of intermediate skills in mixing, I think. Um but it's something I found I had to really think about as I worked my way through. Okay. Now I'm going to throw a little bit of white in there. Look what is happening. Oh my goodness. See, it does go up to a fairly okay color blue. So I got my blue. Look. Haha. Who would have thunk it? And parts of that blue are kind of handy in the mountain as well. I mean, I'm not really going to concentrate on detail. I promise. I'm determined to slay that monster as well, getting caught, that trap of getting caught in detail too much to the extent that I miss out on doing more paintings where I could be learning more from doing more paintings than I could. It's not always bad, not always to be avoided going into detail. See how nice they already are kind of sitting on the paper. I'm going to bring it down a little bit lower for this. Isn't that nice? I like that. So we're gonna put in this bright yellow. So we have two of our split complementary colors in already. We go for the third. And the third is easy because I need a little more white though. The third is easy because it is white. Palette knife, so I'm just going to scoop with this, and I'll use my white palette. So yeah, these should be easy to clean, but of course gouache cleans off a lot easier than acrylics. You'd know about it if you left your acrylics on the palette forgot about them and went off. But I think they'll chip off that as well because the glaze. So I like this, and they're just small enough shape to be usable on my drawing board, and then they're stackable afterwards. So I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm going in here to my yellow, and I've got a nice bright yellow. And compared to my usual color, I think it's fair to say that this rocks. It's vibrant. I love it. I'm over my fear of purple. I'm a happy camper. Look at that. Now I still have areas here where it could be darker. Um, but it's really in terms of vibrancy and harmony, I feel that this is already better than that. Okay. Now, you run into more difficulties when you start putting in detail, and a simpler thing can look like it has more harmony. I get that. But I think it also is more harmony going on across it than this in terms of color because it's more definite. I'm more definite about where I want the colors, and um, I've limited the amount of color I'm using as well, you see. So let's put in some of the darker because we care about tones as well. There's one more thing I want to do with the yellow because some of the yellow can go up onto the hills. There's actually on the hills, there's kind of a warmy, orangey yellow as well. But those three colors that I chose, right? I can I can mix combos of them to get subtle in betweeny colors as well. And really I'm using primaries. So, it's the same as your usual color mixing, except more you keep trying to constrain yourself and remind yourself of those three colors. But you can mix up any colors from those, really. That's what we're kind of proving to ourselves here. And the first way of doing it, we already showed because we were getting a green from yellow and black, weren't we? So over here, we got that really dark green. But your normal way of mixing green might be to mix blue and yellow, yeah. So we're getting the same thing, just in a slightly different way. Okay, and if I want to go darker, I'm going to add a little bit more black. I'm trying to figure out where that tree is because I do have quite a dark shape here. So there's some of the darks, and I have both of them here I'm referring to as well. You see, I always have to fight this thing of just getting a bit too specific. Well, I do want to put in some of the darks just to show you how the range is actually working. So that range is working okay. Now there's an interesting sort of tree in the foreground here that has reddy bits in it, so gonna go for that. And I'm also gonna go for some green here that's a lighter green. So I'm just adding more yellow back into it, basically. More bluey green. Yeah, I couldn't just add a little bit of blue. So, but we're still working with the same colors, right? But the other thing I can do if I have my green, and this is working with the complementaries that you made already, is to come into the opposite of this, which is the violet with black in it. And in fact, you might see it better if I just work the violet in. So you see the way you get a warmer browny color that has a bit of the violet in. But that doing things that way, you have to start off, if you're mixing complementaries like that, you have to start with the right color. So for me, like I have lost my violet color, so I have to mix up another little lot of violet before. So there's the violet again. So I'll have to mix up another lot of violet before I can mix my yellow with it. So let me just choose another brush here. And I'll try that again. So after a while, it starts kind of turning into, you have to watch, I think, that it doesn't, this is what I found with the other painting. I had to watch that it didn't turn into trying to match a color exactly by um, mixing colors from these three colors, these three primaries that were way off to around the wheel, you know, um, and that this was all that I was losing some of the purity of those three colors being the main thing happening. Okay, but I can definitely go little bits in directions, like go in a more violet red direction there if I want, and warm it up a bit if I want, because I might want an orangey color, you know. I might need an orangey color for, I don't know, parts in here. But you see how that one, because it's gone a little bit further away from my original three colors of that split complementary color scheme, it's taking a little bit away from the simplicity of the color scheme as well. So I want to be a bit careful with that and just add little bits of that in where they seem relevant, but not let it take over too much, if you know what I mean. And that's, I do find that challenging for myself as well. Somebody else might not find that as challenging, but I do. So that's pretty nice, isn't it? So, we looked at making things darker with black, lighter with white, but we also looked at getting shadow areas in a different way instead of using black, using the complementary color to whatever our complementary, as long as we weren't going too far outside the complementary colors we already chose, you see. So that was the first one. And, it's not, I haven't done it like super subtly or anything. And I haven't got lots of detail in on it, but that was it. Like, that was what was happening there. And how bright or dark I want to go with that then is about like my tones, what's happening with my tones. So that's why I'm saying to you, I'm working on two things. I'm working on color and I'm working on tone as well. So when I'm saying tone, I mean how light or dark. And when I'm saying color, I mean how I'm actually planning the scene in a nice way that it's going to have some harmony going on in it, you know? So, I think that's nice first study there. So let's say we were going to do another one. Are we going to need all the same colors out? Well, yeah, because we've got the three primaries, haven't we? We've got our magenta, cyan blue, and process yellow, or primary yellow. I suppose it would be called in paints primary. So that's our first one. So our second one we do down here now. It's going to be the same thing, but we want to see, is it going to look any different? This will be interesting now. Because I haven't actually done this experiment during the week. I did remember I was saying at the beginning I did a double complementary color scheme. And don't worry if you're confused what I'm talking about if you came in the middle. I am going to post a very good blog post I found about this that explained it all to me in such a way that I was able to understand it. And it was a very interesting post, very good to read. I really enjoyed it. So that when this live stream is over, I'll have that bookmarked somewhere. I'll go in and find it. So this is for the first one, and I'm hoping that for number two, for our second split complementary uh, scheme, harmonic color scheme, that I'll be able to find something else. And I think what I'm going to do is this little heart marks the main color that I'm going to choose, okay? Because I'm going to choose a main color and then two colors which are on the opposite side of the color wheel or complementary too. And I think that what I would do for the second one, I could either choose the big bank of trees or I could choose the mountains. But I did read on a blog post that, well, you could choose the sky as well, that you choose like a main color, but that it's one of the light colors. So I might choose a light purpley color. Okay, so a light violet. We had a red violet before. I'm going to say a blue violet. I could have chosen blue, like if I chose the sky, but I'm going to say a blue violet. And the blue violet was, let me show you that color and then we'll see what we ended up with for compliments. I'm trying to decide, is this scheme going to work or not? So this one, what we had was a yellow, blue violet again, or violet blue, whatever way you want to call it, and a violet red. So let's see if I picked a violet blue, what I would end up with. I would end up with an orange or a yellow. So is that going to work? Uh, it might work because there's quite a lot of yellow going on, and orange. Yeah, there's a lot of green going on, but there's a lot of orange as well. I don't know where green comes in this scheme of things, but we'll find out. So it'll be different. Just because it has one color in common doesn't mean it won't work. And I can see four options here for what I could do, because if I had chosen blue, I would end up. This is where it's handy to have the little color wheel on front of you. And on that blog post, they show the color wheels, so that's handy to be able to see. If you went for just blue, it's orange and um, yellow orange. So you're not getting any greens in that anyway, but you can go to a greeny blue, you see. If I go over a little bit, well, do I want to go as far over as a greeny blue, or is this going to be very green? I'm going to leave it here just because I'm curious to see, can we do it without going too far into the greens? You see, with our colors here, with yellow, we saw how just adding a black to the yellow makes it into a green. So I have to get rid of this idea perhaps that, well, I can't generate a green because I'm not near enough to it on the color wheel. Uh, because yellow and black is green. So this is where I'm learning. So primary one, main color I'm saying is that violet blue, okay, or blue violet, whatever, which we did have in the other scheme. But I'm arguing now that it's going to turn out looking very different in this one because the next color is, if we come down to the opposite side, straight across the color wheel, and then either side of that is where we're going because it splits. This is a split complementary color scheme. So orange and yellow. And you could get into a big number about, well, these are secondary colors, and some of the ones we used in the last were tertiary colors, but you don't need to kind of think in that complicated way, I don't think. So violet blue, I have a violet here, and violet blue would be just a bit more blue added, wouldn't it? So there's violet blue. And I'm going to add a bit of white to that so that you can see what it looks like brought up tonally a little bit. As opposed to, see, my violet blue there is much redder. So it is a question of what you perceive as being a thing. I should actually try and get it. Probably should try and get it as red as I had it before, just so I'm not confusing matters there. It's a bit redder now, and it's just tonally up a lot more. Okay, kind of cheat mixing it on the canvas. See, what I decide what's exactly violet blue to me, it isn't an exact science now. There are there are schemes where they tell you percentages and everything to put in, but I mean, I don't want to get into all that. So I had one that, 10 minutes ago, I decided it was a lot redder than it is now, but I tried to match it back up because I don't want to go too off the scheme of things, because I want to be able to compare picture number one and picture number two. So orange. And again, orange is one of those colors that you just decide how much yellow you're going to put in. So it's going to be a mix of those two of them. So there's orange, there's red orange. Um, and I'm not trying to match my color wheel because my color wheel, the colors on it are not terribly accurate for the reasons that that red is not magenta, that blue is not cyan. So all the other colors are a bit misleading as well, really. So don't give out to me about that because I didn't invent that. So I'm calling this orange, okay? And orange makes me happy. I'm using a lot of orange at the moment because I just love it. So let's go lighter with that. So this is going to be nice, isn't it? This is going to be a jolly one. So I get to use my orange. Now the third is yellow. And do I have a bit of yellow left that's not infected with other colors? Yes. And I think it's awfully helpful to lay them out like this because you get very subjective about it if you don't keep referring back to your original thing that you decided, okay, I've decided that's yellow. So I have two colors in common, okay? The one that I have yellow, like the first one. I have a violet blue, like the second one. But the other thing that has changed because my original choice before it split into the complementaries changed. Um, my original there was yellow. My original here is violet blue. and main color. Maybe nobody else would understand those notes, but if I do today. Will I forget tomorrow? I don't know. So yeah, I have yellow and I have violet blue, but orange doesn't turn up here. What turned up is violet red, which was oh, I have this marked down as violet blue, violet red. I don't know why I had. Oh yeah, I had violet blue and violet red there. That was violet red. So this is violet blue. Yeah. Okay, so it's just kind of slightly different. It's going to have a slightly different cast to it. Let's go up a little bit so we can see both of them as I'm working. Because I want you to be able to compare notes, what's going on at the top compared to what's going on at the bottom. And I'm going to change my water in a minute, but I want to do that mountain first. So we've still got the violet blue to work the mountain in, okay? So that's cool. And I'm going to bring it up lighter. And just shade it a little bit more towards the blue direction because you're not breaking the rules too badly by just pushing it. There's this idea of pushing and pulling colors slightly from original colors. That's allowed. As far as I can figure out, that's allowed. Uh, but you don't go too off the beaten track all over the place, basically, because you're going to end up. Now I could go as blue as I did before, but I'm not. I'm going more in the violet direction here. Still staying a bit because I'm trying to keep the values, or should say the color, not the tonal values, the colors closer together on the color wheel and not go too far towards the blue end of things. So the whole thing is going to be slightly more violet in this version, just because, you know, it's a bit subjective, just because I've decided. So in that, some of the lighter areas in the mountains are going to be a little bit more violety as well, because it's picking up some of the sky color. And then down here, some of the trees, like this tree here, has actually picked up a little bit of the violet as well. So I'm just going to indicate that because I didn't really get into that so much in the first one, but I just want to show how some of those colors um, can travel around the paper, canvas, or whatever you're working on, a little bit like in the tops of the trees, the sky, the mountains, and the tops of the trees. It makes sense that they're kind of picking up some of the same color, doesn't it? I didn't get into that in the last one. I kept it even simpler. But even down in the grasses and things like that, I'm seeing some of the violet. This is how far I've come in getting over my fear of purple. Aren't you proud of me, folks? You see? All the work I had to do to get over my fear of purple. I knew it was irrational, you see. I knew it made sense to try and work through it and out the other side. And now I'm in a whole world of purple and I love it. So I'm going into my yellow again after my big homage to purple diatribe there. And, I'm having I rant like that when I'm happy. So I'm having a happy time doing this because it is a fun little exercise. And the thing I was doing with the other painting as well, the double um the double complementary color scheme that was so much fun as well. Really enjoyed it. So we've got a lot of bits of yellow turning up in the middle, and I'm not being too uptight about where exactly they go. Just have them in approximately the correct place, and I'm happy. So, it's not the yellows. I haven't kind of done everything exactly the same as the last painting. Freestyling. But I want to have a look at the oranges because the oranges are quite interesting. Where did I put my orange? Let's have a look at the orange here. Things to do with the orange. Well, this here is definitely orange, and this. And I can't remember how I arrived at the orange the last time. It was probably from going the black and yellow route and then adding some violet. But I'm arriving at it differently this time because orange is the one in this one that it's a different color choice than the choice we had originally. And we have some orange on the top of this. So this is a weird color scheme so far, but I haven't got any greens in yet, you see. So we're just working with, I'm going to darken this down, but I'm going to experiment with looking at the opposite color to that orange. So the complementary of orange is blue, but at the same time, this is a split complementary, so I only get to work with this as a complementary of either of these colors. Is if my understanding is right. So these are the complementary colors of that, but this one is the complementary of those in this scheme of things. Unless I'm wrong, unless you want to read about it and see, she's wrong about that. So it's the violet blue. So this is just I'm doing this to show you instead of using black, what would happen if I mix that. And I'm going to say it's going to be nice. I need more violet blue though. Maybe I mix up a fresh batch of violet blue because you keep needing this as your starting color before you can branch out and do the other colors from it. And you have to get it kind of a tone that matches what you had decided was violet blue to start with. So that's what I'm doing now. So I've decided that's my violet blue, okay? And orange. Keep forgetting I'm not working with oil paint and mixing it up really. Now, look at that. Isn't that interesting? It's not quite the same effect as mixing a black into orange, but let's look at the difference. And we'll get some orange and mix black into it. So let me just mix up a little bit more orange. And this is the only kind of washing up I don't really mind doing. Plates like this for paint. Now there's my orange. Now let's mix black in with that just to see how it's different from mixing it with the complementary. And it's quite different. Look at you get a greeny color. And that's not a huge surprise to us because we were mixing black and yellow, weren't we, to get green. So we get quite a dead green there, whereas we get a warm brown there. And we could go further and mix those two. But I'm not going to get into that just because I don't want to wander too far off this scheme. So I don't want to wander too far off either that or orange or yellow. So my violet blue, orange or yellow. I don't want to wander too far from those colors. Has to be kind of fairly near. If I hold it up, it has to be fairly near to any of those. That isn't that near really. It's just wandering slightly off the beaten track. But thing is, It's not that you're not allowed to use it. It's that if you're going to use those colors that aren't near those colors on the color wheel, this is my understanding of it now. So, you can argue with me about this if you want, because I'm new at this. So, um, it's that you don't want to do too much of them in it, because you're going to lose your harmony a bit if you get too into it. So I kind of knew that this one wasn't going to have like huge amounts of green in it, but at the same time, this color that I came up with, which is kind of lovely browny color, when I put black into it, it's not a green, but it's a browny color. So I don't get as much green going on in this one as I did in the first one. But some bits of it, like there's a little reddy tree down here, some bits of it describes really nicely. But it does look very sunsetty, this picture here. But it could also be the fact that I made the sky so dark violet. But when you've got a warmer toned range like that, you've basically got the same scene, but um, it looks like sunset because it's warmer. You see? Does that make sense? That's like how I would explain that to myself. But it's unexpected, I knew some things would happen in there that would be interesting. So look at the difference between those two there. Very different, aren't they? And they give off a different feeling. I mean, even if I came along and got my white out again and came up into that sky with the white, to have the same kind of cloud thing going on. I had a little bit of brown or something on that from this mix down here. So that's okay. The fact that I had a little bit of the color from that mix on, it's still harmonizing. Lovely. It's lovely brownie tones in this one. I would have never come up with that myself, that color scheme, you see. So that is why I think this is such an interesting exercise to do, and the double complementary one was such an interesting exercise to do as well, for the same reason that you get kind of results of things that you would never plan yourself. I would never do something with those kind of colors in it. Without going about it in that method of getting the color wheel out, planning it out, and then seeing. But I could then go and break the rules, because I could say, oh, I love this about it, but I would like that with such and such different going on that's a bit far away from this on the color wheel. I would like to introduce greens in there. There's no law saying I can't do that, but they're possibly not going to be the same kinds of greens that I had in that. They might be greens that have a little bit of purple in them. So let's have a look at what that would look like just before I go. I don't know if I even want to do it on that, because I want to leave the sort of purity of that as is. So I might get myself a spare bit of paper just to show you what I'm thinking. So let's say I had that color there, right? Which was a purpley color. And let me get a yellow and a black. We'll just keep it simple. See, I can, although this is kind of not really from this color scheme that I picked, it's just a yellow and a black, you see. It's still kind of far away, because it's going a lot more up in this direction of the color wheel. But you can do that. I mean, as long as it's still harmonized and it's got the purple behind it. So that would work in that painting. And if you hold it down there, let's just get rid of that white. You can see that works really nicely in that painting. That green. Beautiful. I am going to mess it up because I can't bear to not put it on. Look how beautiful. And they're lovely. They look like difficult colors, like really subtle, clever mixing and everything. It's not. It's simpler than my usual mixing in a way. It just takes a little bit more planning at the beginning. And I love it. I love that just because I wouldn't have come up with that myself. But it's so interesting. So this is a fantastic exercise for generating new colors that you didn't know you had in you, that push your boundaries and just uh, do unexpected things, but very harmonious things, because that one has its own little nice harmony going, and you can do things like you'll find in the foreground there'll be little bits of that violet going on in the foreground as well. If you were working on it a bit more, you'd find them. So it would be more harmonious because you're not mixing from outside those colors. And then in this one, well, I just love that one because it just isn't the way I saw the scene in terms of color, but it works and it's very harmonious. Yeah, I really like the results too. It was really good. And so I feel that this is a kind of a very playful way, but organized way to work on your sense of color and learn new color tricks and get out of little ruts and things. So fun. So give it a go. Yeah, I'm going to go and find that blog post and stick it in underneath, and I think you'll find it very interesting to read. I think it's about maybe a 15, 20-minute read, but of course, if you were going to actually do the exercise, you have to really think about it, and you'd probably have the blog post up for that color wheel. But as I say, if you want to make your own color wheel, I did that on a live um last year it was. I can go looking for that for you as well and stick that in underneath. Okay, see you folks. I'm going to clean up the breakfast dishes. And have a great weekend, whether you're painting, just chillaxing, or for you poor suckers who are working, don't work too hard. And don't forget to have fun. See you. Thanks for joining me. Bye.